Hello, good day to everyone. How is everyone doing? Sir Howard here. For today, we are going to talk about another theory of personality na under ng psychoanalytic tradition. Kung matatandaan ninyo, the past two theories na pinag-usapan natin, una yung kay Sigmund Freud na psychodynamic theory, pangalawa yung Carl Jung na ang tawag ay analytical psychology. Today, we are going to talk about, again, si Alfred Adler na under rin ng psychoanalytic tradition, the name of his theory, individual psychology. So kayo na lang bahala magbasa ng short biography ni Alfred Adler para rin mas malalim ang pagkakaintindi nyo sa kanyang individual psychology theory. Okay, but the first thing you have to know about Adler is, tulad nga ng sinabi ko, he also belongs to the psychoanalytic tradition of understanding personality. At kapag sinabi mong psychoanalytic, syempre unconscious yan. Ito yung mga teorya na naniniwala that our personality is influenced by unconscious forces. In the language of Adler, ano itong mga unconscious forces na ito? We have compensation and birth order. So naniniwala si Alfred Adler na ang ugali ng tao, malaki ang epekto sa ugali natin yung dalawang yan, no? Compensation and birth order. These are unconscious forces that continuously affect our personality. Unahin natin yung compensation. How does this affect personality? Sabi ni Adler, ang tao, nagsisimula tayo sa buhay that we are inferior. Deep inside our unconscious, meron tayong enerhiya where we feel we are incompetent, we are inadequate, and dependent. Ang tanong, bakit ganyan ang mga energies natin nung tayo ay pinanganak sa mundo? Because we are treated this way. We are made to feel by our parents that we are incompetent, inadequate, and dependent, and we are. Totoo naman talaga kasi ng isang sanggol, ganyan. Incompetent pa, inadequate pa, dependent pa. So yung treatment ng parents natin sa atin, no, na ganyan tayo, diyan nanggagaling yung inferiority energy natin. But this is where Adler begins to connect this to how our personality is influenced. Sabi niya, habang tayo ay lumalaki, minsan yung parents natin, hindi sila bumibitaw sa ganong treatment nila sa atin. You know? So when our parents continuously treat us as if we are incompetent, inadequate, and dependent, nadadala natin yan unconsciously to maturity. So habang lumalaki tayo at hindi nagbabago yung treatment sa atin ng parents natin, nadadala natin yung ganyang energy as we grow older. So may mga tao na malaki na, mature na, pero punong-puno pa rin ng self-doubt. They believe that they're no good, that everyone is better except them, no, that they're always afraid, I don't deserve my rank, so on and so forth. Ito yung tinatawag ni Adler na inferiority complex. Ito yung popular na konsepto sa Adlerian Psychology, no, yung inferiority complex. Ito yung, again, ulitin ko, ito yung feelings of inferiority natin na nadadala natin as we grow older na nanggaling during our younger years, no? In fact, i-emphasize ko lang, makikita na naman natin dito yung psychoanalytic tradition ni Adler. Again, he emphasizes on things that happen during the childhood. Yan kasi yung common denominator, no? Isa sa mga common denominator of the psychoanalytic tradition, they place high emphasis on what happens to us during our younger years. So, dito makikita natin yung pagka-psychoanalytic flavor ng theory ni Alfred Adler, no? So, basahin ko lang sa inyo yung isa niyang sinabi, what Adler said about inferiority complex para mas lumalim yung pagkakaintindi nyo on how inferiority complex works. Adler said, the greater the feeling of inferiority that has been experienced, the more powerful is the urge to conquest and the more violent the emotional agitation. So malaking parte pala ng ugali natin when we mature can be explained by the degree of our inferiority. Marami tayong mga kaugalian, mga gawi, the way we treat other people, kaya tayo ganun, may kinalaman pala yun sa inferiority complex na meron tayo. Yan yung paniniwala ni Adler. Kaya nga, although mamaya natin pag-uusapan to, no, in Adlerian Psychotherapy, isa sa mga goals, if your therapist is using the approach of Adler, is for you to overcome your inferiority complex. Maraming mga mental health issues ang umaayos, mga mental illnesses ang gumagaling kapag na-overcome natin yung ating inferiority. Obviously, isa na dyan, syempre, yung clinical depression. Kung iisipin mo, napaka-connected ng clinical depression sa sinasabi ni Adler na inferiority complex eh. Kung titignan mo yung simptomas ng isang taong depressed, if you're going to look at the way they think about themselves, punong-puno sila ng inferiority complex, no? Kaya nga, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Sabi dito sa slide ko, one therapy realization na dapat nating magets at this point is how we let other people treat us become who we are. If there is one lesson that the Adlerian theory is teaching us so far, sa na pag-uusapan natin ngayon, yung ugali mo, nakadepende yan kung paano mo hinahayaan ang ibang tao na itrato ka. How we let other people treat us become who we are. And again, according to Adler, this happens unconsciously. Diba? During our younger years and while we are growing older, lalong-lalo na kung hindi ka naman psych major, no? Hindi ka aware na kung paano mo hinahayaan tratuhin ka ng ibang tao, merong epekto yun sa ugali mo. O, dito na naman makikita yung pagka-psychoanalytic ni Adler. His emphasis on the unconscious. Pero, di ba, napaka-practical na wisdom ito, no? Again, let me repeat because it's so practical. How we let other people treat us become who we are. Kaya alam nyo, totoo rin yung quote na ito eh. Stop asking why they keep doing it and start asking why you keep allowing it. Diba? So one way for you to improve your personality or to shape your personality is to control or to have a say on how you would let other people treat you. So merong direct link yung paano mo hinahayaan yung mga taong tratuhin ka sa kung sino ka ngayon. So, one key, isang susi for personality change, if you're going to use Adlerian idea or Adlerian technique, is to modify how you let other people treat you. Dito naman medyo iba si Adler kumpara kay Freud tsaka kay Carl Jung. Kasi si Freud at tsaka si Carl Jung, inaayos yung personality through the unconscious. Talagang kinakailangan mo ng psychological excavation. Huhukayin mo yung unconscious. Dito makikita mo si Adler, yung kanyang approach, very conscious. You work on how people treat you to improve your personality, and that is a conscious process. 'Di ba? So, medyo lumalabas na ng psychoanalytic domain si Adler, the fact na ini-emphasize niya na yung therapy mo sa sarili mo can be in the conscious level. So more about that as we go along, no? Kung pag-uusapan natin how Adler is different from Freud and Carl Jung. Okay? So, going back to inferiority complex. So lahat tayo may inferiority complex that we got from our childhood because of the way our parents treated us. So, ang sabi ni Adler, meron tayong unconscious response dito. So, going back to the unconscious, our inferiority complex, we unconsciously deal with this through compensation. Another important term in Adlerian theory. Ibig sabihin ng compensation, this is any behavior that we do to overcome our inferiority. And there are two basic ways on how we compensate for our inferiority. Una, we try to excel at something to hide our weakness. And number two, we convert our weakness to become strength. Kung babasahin mo kung paano tayo nagko-compensate dito, there is another word in psychology na mukhang tugmang-tugma sa idea ng compensation eh. Alam niyo kung ano yon? It starts with letter M, motivation. 'Di ba? So, ang sinasabi ni Adler dito, isa sa mga bagay na nagpapamotivate sa atin araw-araw is our desire to overcome our inferiority. Yun lang, hindi motivation ang tawag ni Adler doon. Kasi yung motivation, ano na yan Hindi pa uso yung term na yan during Adler's time, no? But basically, that's what he is saying eh. We overcome our inferiority by being motivated. So yan yung nagpapagalaw sa atin araw-araw, no? Araw-araw gumagawa tayo ng mga bagay sa buhay natin na sa tingin natin magpapakawala sa atin sa pagiging incompetent, pagiging inadequate, at pagiging dependent. So what do? We study, we learn skills, we form alliances with other people, we improve our knowledge, so on and so forth. Which I think, lahat naman ng mga bagay na yan para ma-overcome natin yung inferiority natin, maganda. Diba? Kasi kapag nagko-compensate tayo, nagkakaroon ng human development. Mas gumagaling, mas nag-upgrade yung ating personality, no? So, some examples in history na nagpapakita how compensation works. Merong weakness yung tao, pero nag-compensate siya, so mataas yung motivation niya to improve the self. Halimbawa, si Napoleon Bonaparte, 'di ba? Isa sa mga pinakamagaling na conquerors in the history of the world. They're saying na si Bonaparte, yung kanyang motivation to conquer different places in the world can be explained by his height. Maliit lang kasi si Napoleon Bonaparte, no? Sabi ng mga historians, wala pa siyang 6 feet. Sabi nga nung iba, wala pa siyang 5 feet, no? Pero ano man ang height niya, hindi siya matangkad in the standard of their time. So, yung kanyang height na maliit, ang pang-compensate niya doon is his ability to conquer different parts of the world. Maliit man siya, marami naman siyang lupa na nako-conquer. Ganon din daw si Aristotle. I mean, sorry, not Aristotle, Socrates, I mean. Si Socrates daw, kung makikita mo sa personal, hindi siya kagwapuhan. Although hindi siya kagwapuhan, sobrang talino naman niya when it comes to philosophical dialogues. Si Albert Einstein, he's not good with words. In fact, pinagsususpetsahan na si Albert Einstein ay intellectually deficient, pero nag-compensate siya through numbers. I may not be good with words, I may not be good verbally, pero halos godlike ang kanyang ability when it comes to numbers. Same thing with Stephen Hawking. Si Stephen Hawking, meron siyang problema physically, pero the way he thinks about the universe, about physics, about astrophysics, doon siya nag-compensate. So, ganyan ang ginagawa natin kapag tayo ay nagko-compensate, ginagalingan natin yung mga skills natin to overcome our weaknesses. Ngayon, dito na ipapasok yung superiority complex, no? If we start with inferiority complex, we end with superiority complex. In other words, sabi ni Adler, dahil inferiority tayo, meron tayong inferiority. We feel inferior, and then we compensate. Kapag tuloy-tuloy ang compensation natin, then darating tayo sa point na magiging superior na tayo. Tumataas yung tinatawag nating efficacy or confidence, di ba? Pero sabi ni Adler, ang superiority complex, hindi rin laging maganda yan. Meron lang siyang healthy level, pero meron na rin siyang unhealthy level. Healthy level, ibig sabihin yung hindi ka pa nagmamaliit ng ibang tao. I mean, you just feel good about yourself because you are able to overcome your weaknesses. Pero hindi ka naglalamang ng ibang tao, hindi ka nangaapi ng ibang tao, that is a healthy level of superiority complex. But it can go beyond that. Merong superiority complex na hindi na healthy because you begin to be arrogant. You begin to downplay or to undervalue other people. One good example of this, I think, would be yung character ni Hanamichi Sakuragi sa show na Slam Dunk. Kung titignan nyo yung character ni Sakuragi, talagang ano siya, no? Amindado naman siyang hindi siya magaling sa basketball, that he's just trying to learn, and then he is compensating for that inferiority. So practice siya ng practice, he's learning how to play the game, pero in the process, habang gumagaling siya, habang nag-i-improve siya, maliit na yung tingin niya sa ibang tao. Maliit na yung tingin niya sa mga teammates niya. Nasobrahan yung kanyang superiority, hindi na healthy. Kaya if you watch this show, marirealize mo na maraming bad trip kay Hanamichi kasi nga masyadong mataas yung kanyang superiority complex. Nasobrahan siya sa kanyang compensation. no? And biblically speaking, ang Bible, it is supporting the idea na dapat yung compensation mo tama lang. Na dapat hindi ka masyadong sumosobra sa superiority complex mo. James chapter 4 verse 6, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. Ang ibig sabihin ng humble or ng humility in biblical language, hindi ibig sabihin nun na inferior ka. Iba yun, no? Oo, humility does not mean inferiority. Magaling ka. Oo, marami kang kayang gawin. Pero hindi mo minamaliit yung ibang tao, hindi mo tinatapakan yung ibang tao, hindi mo ina-underestimate yung ibang tao. It's just that you know within yourself that you're good. That's humility. Kasi common notion ng mga tao na hindi nakakaintindi sa humility, akala nila pag magpapaka-humble ka, magpapaapi ka, or hindi mo i-improve yung sarili mo kasi humble ka like a sheep, 'di ba? Hindi 'yon, hindi ganoon, out of context 'yon, no? Being humble in the biblical language means you are improving yourself but you are not underestimating other people. It's a constant value being taught in the Bible. Sa Proverbs din sinasabi 'yan. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way and the froward mouth do I hate. Isa sa mga hate ng Diyos ay yung kayabangan. 'Di ba? Pag masyadong mataas yung iyong superiority complex. Now, although may mga tao, ang default ng tao is to overcome our inferiority, so we compensate, merong mga mangilan-ngilang mga tao hindi nagko-compensate. And according to Adler, this is not good. In fact, these are the people na kinakailangan mag-undergo ng Adlerian Psychotherapy. Merong mga tao na meron silang inferiority, they know they have inferiority, but they are not doing anything about it. In other words, they are not compensating. Sounds familiar? Ito na ngayon siguro yung mga taong depressed. Ito na yung mga taong merong mood disorders, masyadong mabababa ang mga self-esteem. These are the people who need psychotherapy according to Adler. Kaya nga, after all these things that we are saying, what is a healthy personality in the language of Adlerian theory? It means two things. Number one, you develop your strength for every weakness. So, yung mga weakness mo, meron ka, para maging healthy ka, bawat isang weakness mo, tatapatan mo ng isang strength. That's one way to do it if you want to have a healthy personality. Hindi yung buong araw nagmumukmuk ka doon sa mga weaknesses mo. Dapat bawat weakness na makita mo, bawat pangit na makita mo sa sarili mo, tatapatan mo ng isang maganda. Hindi ka man magaling sa math, pero mas galingan mo sa science. Hindi ka man magaling sa, let's say, sa tennis, mas gagalingan mo naman sa basketball. So dapat laging may ganun, lagi kang may pakontra sa mga weaknesses mo. Number 2, you turn your weakness into a strength. Pwede rin naman ganyan. Sa number 1 kasi, hinahayaan mo lang yung weakness mo Tatapatan mo lang ng isang strength. But number 2 is different. Another approach. You work on your weakness hanggang sa maging strength siya. Diba? One good example of this would be Michael Jordan. Yan yung attitude niya Kaya isa siya sa mga athletes, I think, in NBA history na napaka-healthy ng personality. Ang ganda ng attitude niya towards himself and towards the game. My attitude is that if you push me towards something that you think is a weakness, anong sabi niya? I will turn that perceived weakness into a strength. Kaya naging greatest of all time si Michael Jordan because of that kind of attitude. Hindi niya hinahayaan na yung weakness niya, habang buhay weakness niya, ginagawa niya ng paraan para maging strength niya. So far, kung mapapansin niyo na-realize ko lang din to ngayon, yung theory ni Adler, meron siyang pagka motivational speaker, Adler is all about motivation. Motivating yourself to improve the self, to improve the psyche. Napakalaking parte ng teorya niya yung ma-motivate ka na i-improve yung sarili mo from inferior to becoming superior. That is a very important idea in Adlerian theory. Punta na ngayon tayo sa birth order ni Alfred Adler. In fact, between compensation and birth order, mas sumikat yung theory ni Adler sa sinabi niya on birth order psychology. Ang kiniklaim ni Adler dito, yung ugali raw natin ay merong kinalaman kung pang ilan ka sa magkakapatid. There is a direct link between birth order and personality. And this is a very controversial topic, kaya pag-usapan natin dito. Dito, malalaman na naman natin, makikita na naman natin yung key differences ni Adler kumpara kay Sigmund Freud. No? But then again, they are within the same approach in understanding personality. No? Nasa psychoanalytic tradition pa rin tayo. Si Adler, o si Freud muna, ang emphasis niya sa personality is the influence of parents to personality. Remember the Oedipus complex, identification, unconscious courtship of the child sa kanyang opposite sex parent. Parents ang crucial dun in understanding the personality development. Pero si Adler, hindi niya masyadong ine-emphasize ang parents, ang ine-emphasize niya yung siblings. So this is one of the key differences that we can see between Adler's thinking and Freudian thinking. So, ang tanong, ito ngayon yung sasagutin natin in this part, ano ang kinalaman ng birth order sa pag-uugali ng tao, no? Well, culturally speaking, meron tayong mga general ideas how personality is related to birth orders. Take for instance, itong slide na ito, meron tayong mga general notion kung ano ang ugali ng panganay, ugali ng gitna, ugali ng bunso, at ugali ng nag-iisang anak. So, if you can see these words right here, kapag ikaw ay panganay, ganito ang iyong mga ugali. Kapag ikaw ay nasa gitna, ayan, independent ka, secretive, you feel that life is unfair. Kapag last ka, ganyan ka. Kapag only born ka, ito ang iyong mga ugali. So as we go along, titignan natin kung totoo nga ba itong mga sinasabi ni Adler na ito, no? Firstborn, according to Adler, ano ang mga key characteristics kapag ikaw ay isang panganay? Number one, ang mga panganay daw ang madalas na allies or kakampi ng mga magulang. That's why firstborns, they are the ones who are the most mature and the most responsible. Kasi sila yung parang spokesperson ng mga magulang sa mga siblings, di ba? Kung merong isang tao na pinaka-close sa magulang, sa mga magkakapatid, it would be the firstborn. Number two, ang mga panganay daw, sabi ni Adler, sila yung nakaka-experience ng dethronement. That's a very important word in Adlerian theory, dethronement. Ibig sabihin ng dethronement, nangyayari yan kapag merong bagong kapatid yung panganay. So imagine, si Pedro pinanganak. Okay? Si Pedro pinanganak. So let's say for 3 years, si Pedro ang baby ng pamilya kasi siya lang yung only child Pero nabuntis ulit si Mami at nagkaroon ng kapatid si Pedro. Pinanganak si Juan. So hindi all of a sudden, si Pedro hindi na siya yung baby. Hindi na siya yung pinapansin, hindi na siya yung nilalaro. Hindi na siya yung laging nilalabas. In fact, hindi na lumalabas kasi meron ng bagong baby na dapat alagaan na si Juan. In that case, according to Adler, yan yung tinatawag niyang dethronement. Na-dethrone si Pedro. Nawala na yung mga attention na binibigay sa kanya dati ng kanyang parents. So that dethronement will result to superiority complex. Ibig sabihin, dahil na-dethrone yung panganay, isa sa mga magiging goals niya unconsciously is to reclaim the throne that he lost. Kasi yung bago niyang, yung meron na siyang rival ngayon sa attention na dati niyang nakukuha, yung bagong baby. So, para ma-retain niya, para makuha niya ulit yung throne na nawala sa kanya, doon na ngayon lalabas yung superiority complex nung panganay. And how will the panganay do this? Gagawa na ngayon siya ng mga acts of dominance. Gagawa na ngayon siya ng mga behaviors na magpapakita sa mga magulang na deserving ko pa rin ang pansin, ang attention na binibigay nyo sa akin dati. Mas magaling pa rin ako kumpara dyan sa bagong baby nyo. Again nangyayari ito unconsciously, sabi ni Adler. Hindi natin consciously na iniisip yon, but that experience, being in that experience, being dethroned, will lead you to do acts of dominance. Kaya karamihan daw ng mga panganay, talagang matataas ang mga level of dominance. Good example of this in the Bible, si Cain and Abel. 'Di ba? Ang panganay dito si Cain, ang pangalawa si Abel, mas bata si Abel, 'di ba? Pero bakit si Cain napatay niya ang kanyang kapatid na si Abel? Kasi na-dethrone siya. There was a passage in the Bible where God showed more favor doon sa sacrifice ni Abel, mas pinaboran. So, feeling ni Cain na dethrone siya. Ako ang panganay eh. 'Di ba? Ako ang mas superior. O bakit you gave favor kay Abel more than my sacrifice? So, ang naging pangit lang kay Cain, yung expression niya ng kanyang superiority complex became too much. Kaya nga sabi ko, 'di ba, merong unhealthy expression of superiority complex. Good example of that yung ginawa ni Cain. Sa sobrang taas ng superiority complex ni Cain, dumating sa point na patay niya ang kanyang sariling kapatid. Some popular firstborns na kilala natin, no? Or baka ako lang may kakilala, si Bill Clinton, the former American president, si Will Smith, si ano pa to? Si Bruce Willis, okay, si Winston Churchill, no? Our very own Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago, and of course, the greatest psychologist of all time, Jesus Christ himself is a firstborn. Maliwanag ba? So, kayo na lang humusga, no? Given these personalities, given their characteristics, masasabi nyo ba na tugma yung sinasabi ni Adler in terms of their personality? Secondborn or middle child, kapag nasa gitna ka ng birth order, ano yung mga pag-uugali mo, no? They are the victims of comparison. Usually, the middleborns, they are being compared to the panganay. Lalong-lalo na kapag dalawa pa lang sila, di ba? Kasi pag dalawa, madalas yun ang pinagkukumpara mo, no? So laging kinukumpara yung second born sa eldest, sa firstborn. And usually, natatalo yung second born. Kasi nga, yung panganay, ang lakas ng superiority complex eh. Talagang nag-e-effort siya to achieve para to reclaim the throne back. So madalas natatalo si second born kasi wala pa siya masyadong resources para maging superior kumpara sa panganay. Number 2, according to Adler, the second-born or the middle-born, sila yung mataas ang tendency to be the black sheep of the family. Sila yung madalas nagre-rebelde. Kasi yung attention, the affection that they want, it is distributed between, number 1, the eldest, kasi nga yun yung allies ng mga parents, and the youngest, kung may bunso. So yung attention ng parents nandoon sa kanilang panganay at nandoon sa baby ng pamilya, the bunso. Kaya konti na lang, kakarampot na lang ang natira sa mga second-born or middle-born. At ang epekto niyan, sabi ni Adler, nagiging attention seekers ang mga middle-born. Sila yung pinakauhaw sa attention, pinakauhaw sa affection. Kaya hinahanap daw nila yung mga affections na yan outside the family, which tells you that most middle-born children are closer to their peers compared to their families. Ewan ko lang kung totoo yun, no? Again, lahat na sinasabi ko dito, ito yung sinasabi ni Adler, ha? Hindi ako yung nagsasabi nito. Popular middle-born children are the following. Yan, Britney Spears, si Madonna, si J-Lo. In fact, maraming mga artista, no? Middle-born. And kung titignan mo, yung sinasabi ni Adler dito, mukhang tugma nga eh. Kasi 'di ba ang trabaho ng artista talaga is to get people's attention, 'di ba? Maraming artista mga middle-born. Politicians din, no? Maraming middle-born, si former President Pinoy, si Erap na dati ring artista. Okay? Let's go to the youngest. Ano naman ang mga nangyayari sa youngest in the Adlerian world? Number 1, sila ang mga spoiled, overindulgent, and very dependent. Number 2, sila rin ang pinakamabagal ang maturity. So, sila ang pinakaisip bata. Sila ang pinaka-slow ang pagtanda. Bakit? Because since they are the youngest, halos lahat ng mga bagay na dapat sila ang gumagawa dahil binibaby sila ng pamilya, hindi sila ang gumagawa. So, they learn less. And that slows down their maturity. That slows down their development. Kaya maraming mga bunso, matatanda na, parang highly dependent pa rin sa mga parents. Diba? I mean, personally, I know a lot of people who are like that. 30s na, pero dahil sila yung bunso, nakatira pa rin sila sa kanilang mga parents. Popular people who are considered who are youngest in their birth order. Si Cameron Diaz, we have Jim Carrey, we have Vice Ganda, and of course, King David in the Bible is the last born. Pero dito medyo sumablay yung no? Medyo sumablay yung prediction ni Adler. Kasi si David, although bunso siya, pero kung titignan mo yung character niya sa Bible, napaka-mature mag-isip ni King David. In fact, naging hari pa nga siya, di ba? Kumbaga yung profile ni David, parang pang eldest. Pero si David is the last born, bunso. So dito makikita mo na hindi perpekto yung teorya ni Alfred Adler. Meron siyang mga prediction on birth order and its relationship with personality na mukhang hindi naman natin nakikita in our everyday life. Pero may reason yan kung bakit. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin. And last one, we have the only born child. Key characteristics of only born. Number one, they are very self-sufficient, very independent kasi wala silang mga kapatid, no? So, they learn how to depend on themselves. And number two, mas mabilis ang maturity nila. Bakit? It makes sense. Dahil wala silang kapatid, sino ang lagi nilang kausap? Yung kanilang mga parents. They spend a lot of time with their parents who are adults. So, ang tendency ng isang bata na siya lang ang anak, ma-internalize niya yung adult pattern of thinking because he or she spend a lot of time with the parents. Kumpara mo kung hindi ka only born, kung meron kang mga kapatid, di ba? So, magiging isip bata ka kasi yung kapatid mo isip bata rin. Pero kapag only born ka, wala ka namang choice. Lagi mong kasama parents mo. Along the way, ma-internalize mo yung mga adult ways of thinking. Popular only borns na kilala natin would be si Tiger Woods, only born pala siya, si Leonardo da Vinci, at si Mr. Henry C. Okay? So, ito yung mga popular na mga only born. Now, ito yung matinding tanong after everything that we discuss on birth order psychology. Evidence-based ba ito? Kasi nung ginawa naman ito ni Adler, hindi pa naman uso yung empirical research. Wala pa naman masyado yung personality testing, yung test mo, or i-ANOVA mo to confirm your theory. Very qualitative ang approach ni Adler. So, kamusta kaya ang theory ni Adler if you examine this in today's standard? Actually, marami na namang mga pag-aaral ang ginawa na ang goal is to confirm or disconfirm the theory of Adler. One example would be a study done by CNN. Gumawa ng pag-aaral ang CNN inspired by Adler's birth order psychology. So, sa research na ito ng CNN, nag-observe sila, pinag-aralan nila ang libo-libong mga tao in relation to their birth orders. So, they have given them psychological tests, nangolekta rin sila ng mga data from their parents, inobserbahan nila yung mga taong ito, and this is how they saw, or the following are the results of this research. Sa mga firstborns daw na nakita nila in this study, number one, generally, they're very ambitious, assertive, dominant, disciplined. They earn $100,000 more than their siblings. So, mas mayaman si kuya at si ate kumpara sa mga kapatid nila. And they are more likely to pursue intellectual jobs. Ibig sabihin yung mga talagang mga mahihirap, requires logical thinking, engineering, being a scientist, or entering the medical field. Yan ang profile ng mga firstborn. Mukhang medyo tugma naman, no? Medyo tugma naman sa sinasabi ni Adler. And another trivia, according to the research by CNN, karamihan daw ng mga American presidents, lagpas 50%, are all firstborns. I think ang kinoconnect, ang implication ng CNN dito is yung leadership. A lot of firstborns are so attracted to positions of leadership. Kasi sa pamilya, leader sila. Gusto nila outside the family, leader din sila to achieve some kind of consistency. No? Oo. Second to middle. Ano naman, kamusta? According to research, palakihin lang natin to. Sila ay, number one, good at negotiation, peacemaking. Generally, they are better with people skills compared to the firstborns and the other birth orders. And I think this makes sense, no? Yung people skills. Bakit sila magaling sa people skills? Kasi dahil nasa gitna sila sila yung madalas nagne-negotiate, sila yung tumutulay sa pamilya. Halimbawa, may hindi pagkakaunawaan yung bunso at saka yung panganay na madalas nag-aaway, no? Yung gitna ngayon ang magtatry na pag-ayusin sila. So they are always in the middle, which forces them to have good people skills. They are closer to friends than family. Sinabi ko kanina yan, tugmang-tugma dito, swak na swak. And they earn $35,000 less than the firstborn and the youngest. Diba? So parang hindi ganun kalaki ang kita ng mga middleborns compared to the firstborns. For the youngest, kamusta naman ang resulta ng mga youngest? Sabi ng research nila, they are the ones who are least likely to earn 6-digit figures. Oh, it makes sense kasi nga mabagal ang maturity nila, mabagal ang kanilang learning curve. So siguro yan yung reason bakit hindi sila ganun kabilis umunlad financially. They are very manipulative, they have good sense of humor, very creative, loves the limelight. Medyo mintis yan kasi sa Adlerian theory, sino ang mahilig magpapansin yung mga middleborns di ba? More likely to be athletic for some reason. Yung mga youngest, sabi ng research ng CNN, sila raw yung most likely na magiging varsity sa mga magkakapatid. And most of the time, malaki ang chance that the youngest enter artistic, art-oriented jobs. No, they enter fields like advertising, interior design, theater art, so on and so forth. Yung only child naman, based on the analysis of this research, generally yung kanilang profile ay parang pang firstborn din. Diba? Kung nalimutan nyo na ano ba yung profile ng firstborn, ganyan. Ambitious, assertive, dominant, very disciplined, earns $100,000 more than siblings, more likely to pursue intellectual jobs such as engineering, being a scientist, or being in the field of medicine. Okay, so kung titignan natin, kung i-analyze ulit natin yung modern research na ito ng CNN, kamusta ang teorya ni Adler? Sa tingin ko, generally, nakapasa. Merong mga mintis, merong mga hindi nakuha, pero kung bibigyan ko to ng grade, passing mark ito Marami pa rin sinabi si Adler na mukhang totoo. When CNN confirmed this using quantitative research, no? So palakpakan natin si Adler. Okay? Anyway. Criticisms. Ano ba yung mga bagay na medyo mayroong problema sa theory ni Adler, no? Ang pinaka-criticism lang naman sa teorya ni Adler, maraming hindi na konsidera si Adler in understanding birth order. Halimbawa, hindi niya na-consider yung cultural differences of birth order. Parang ang assumption ni Adler, universal yung dynamics ng birth order. Lahat ng panganay, ganito ang trato. Lahat ng middleborn, ganito ang trato. Lahat ng bunso, ganito ang trato ng mga magulang. But if you study anthropology and you study different forms of family, you will realize na iba-iba ang trato sa mga birth orders depende sa kung anong kultura. Like, let's talk about eldest versus youngest. Diba? Diyan na lang tayo magstay sa dalawa. Merong mga kultura, mas mataas ang value ng eldest kumpara sa youngest. And vice versa, may mga kultura naman, mas emphasis, mas mataas ang value sa youngest compared sa eldest. Hindi na consider ni Adler yon. Kasi after all, hindi naman anthropology si Adler, no? So, that's one criticism. Masyadong generalized yung sinasabi niya. Hindi niya masyadong na-consider yung cultural differences, the differences of how culture see the different birth orders. Hindi rin na-consider yung age gap Diba? Merong din kasi posibleng epekto sa birth order yung layo ng gap ng mga magkakapatid. Let's say, firstborn tsaka yung secondborn. Mag-iiba yung dynamics kapag yung gap ng firstborn sa secondborn is 10 years compared to kung 1 year lang. 'Di ba? Merong mga psychological effects yan, mag-iiba yung quality of interaction between the two depending on the age gap. Adler did not consider that. Parang ang sinasabi ni Adler, regardless of the age gap, ganito ang mangyayari sa mga magkakapatid. Hindi rin niya na-consider yung family situations. Paano kung yung pamilya single parent? Pareho pa rin ba ng dynamics? Paano kung nanay lang ang nagpalaki or tatay lang nagpalaki or lola ang nagpalaki, uncle ang nagpalaki sa mga magkakapatid? He did not consider that. But we all agree na mag-iiba ang dynamics dyan kapag hindi mo talaga directly magulang yung nagpapalaki sa'yo in relation sa inyong mga magkakapatid. The dynamics will be entirely different. At hindi rin niya na-consider yung gender constitution. Di ba? Halimbawa, yung tinatawag nating, halimbawa, sa 5 magkakapatid, 3 lalaki, 2 babae. O, versus lahat lalaki versus lahat babae. 'Di ba? Yun ba mag-iiba ang dynamics? Adler did not study that. Para ang assumption ni Adler regardless of the gender constitution, ilan ang lalaki, ilan ang babae, pang ilan yung lalaki, pang ilan yung babae, ganun pa rin yung dynamics. Pero logic will tell you na along the way mag-iiba yan 'Di ba? Lalong-lalo na iba rin ang tingin ng kultura sa babae at lalaki. Tapos magi-interact yun sa tingin ng kultura sa panganay at sa bunso at sa panggitna. Things will be very different. Kaya ang pinaka-criticism talaga sa birth order psychology, it's too over-generalized. That it does not consider the specific types of family setups. Although marami siyang criticisms, going back to the study by CNN, dito ka naman bibilib meron din naman mga sinabi si Adler na tama. No? So anyway, let's close this short lecture video on the distinction, ang pagkakaiba ni Adler kay Freud at kay Carl Jung. Sorry, no, this is typo. Distinction from Freud and Jung. This must be Jung. Okay, my apologies. Jung yan. Okay. Sa tingin ko, ang pinagkaiba ni Adler kay Freud at Jung is si Adler ang pinaka-open sa consciousness level of the personality. Si Sigmund Freud at saka si Carl Jung talagang a large chunk of their theory focuses on the unconscious. Although si Adler naniniwala rin siya sa unconscious, kaya nga under pa rin siya ng psychoanalytic tradition, no? Pero tumatawid si Adler sa consciousness. Kung titignan mo yung psychotherapy ni Adler, for example, kung siya ang iyong therapist, papakialaman din niya yung consciousness level mo Si Carl Jung tsaka si Sigmund Freud ang tingin kaagad sa unconscious And how are those connected to your conscious personality? Pero si Adler, again, he acknowledges that there are unconscious forces in your personality, pero naniniwala rin siya na you can make yourself better by working on things that are in your consciousness level. Ibang-iba kay Adler, ibang-iba kay Carl Jung at saka kay Sigmund Freud. In fact, basahin ko sa inyo to, no? Isa sa mga approach ni Adler in making people better in his therapy. We are not determined by our experiences, sabi niya, but are self-determined by the meaning we give to them. When we take particular experiences as the basis of our future life, we are almost certain to be misguided to some degree. Meanings are not determined by situations. We determine ourselves by the meanings we ascribe to situations. Kung titignan ninyo yung mga words na bibilugan ko, no? Meaning we give to them. Did you see that part? Meanings are not determined by situations. Saan nanggagaling yung meaning natin sa buhay? We determine ourselves by the meanings we ascribe to situations. Kung iisipin mo, itong sinasabi ni Adler dito will require the person to focus on his or her consciousness. Consciously dapat i-assign mo yung meaning sa buhay mo. Ikaw dapat ang magsasabi what your life is all about. Bago ka mag-compensate, before you overcome your inferiority complex, bigyan mo muna ng meaning yung buhay mo. In fact, in Adlerian language, ang tawag niya dyan, value. Value. You go to Adler, ang sasabihin niya sa'yo para maging okay yung personality mo, mag-add ka muna ng value sa sarili mo. Tignan mo muna ano ba ang binavalue mo sa sarili mo. Let me read for you one website that talks about Adlerian Psychotherapy, no? Para mas malinaw. Ito, values clarification and Adlerian psychology, no? Nakalagay dito, individuals often enter therapy to gain better insight into their own behaviors and responses to circumstances that occur in their lives. There you go. Anong tawag doon? Values clarification, through which a person in therapy is introduced to personal life organization, including birth order, social context, and other external dynamics, including parental influences. By understanding this organization and how it has influenced self-worth, acceptance, expectations, doon na niya ipapasok yung values clarification. So, let's jump from there to here. Values clarification is all about doing what matters, knowing what matters to you personally. O, di ba? Yung salitang yun, no? Doing what matters to you personally, that is very conscious. Hindi papakialaman yan ni Freud at ni Carl Jung. For them, yung ugali mo, para mabago mo yan, para magkaroon ka ng improvement, tingin tayo sa unconscious mo. Pero si Adler, hindi, no? Tingin tayo sa consciousness level mo. Let me continue. Various exercises are employed to help identify chosen values that act like a compass from which to direct intentional and effective behavior. People who are fused with their thoughts and tend to struggle with or avoid painful emotions often struggle with choosing purposeful and values-guided action. There you go. Through mindful liberation from such struggles, ayan na naman yung salitang mindful liberation. Ibig sabihin, conscious mong gagawin yan. They find acting congruently with their values, natural, and fulfilling. In fact, kung i-analyze mo pa nga yung sinasabi dito sa Adlerian Psychotherapy, papunta na siya sa existential psychology. Humanistic existential psychology eh. Sa tingin ko kaya hindi lang siya nilalagay sa category na yon kasi naniniwala pa rin si Adler sa unconscious. Diba? Kasi sa existential humanistic approach, medyo dina-downplay ang role ng unconscious eh, no? We are our own agents in those approaches. Pero kasi si Adler naniniwala pa rin siya sa unconscious, so he was placed under this. Pero yun na nga, ang pinaka-pinagkaiba niya kay Freud at Carl Jung, yung kanyang closeness to the conscious level of personality. You know, so before we end this video, syempre, dahil we are talking about meaning in life, because we are talking about value, no? Well, the Bible provides the value that all people should fulfill. Ewan ko lang kung maniniwala si Adler dito, no? Kasi si Adler, ang sinasabi niya dito, ang tao, yung pasyente, yung magbibigay ng value sa sarili niyang buhay. But biblically speaking, if we are going to listen to what the Bible is saying, the value is already predetermined. Diyos na ang nagsabi kung ano ang purpose ng tao, kung ano ang meaning ng buhay. It's not up to the person to determine his or her value. It is already predetermined. Like for example, in Ecclesiastes 12:13, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Nakaset na. Kaya ka nandito sa mundo is because you are called to glorify God. Now, we differ in the way we glorify God, pero lahat ng tao, yan lang naman talaga ang purpose. To worship God, to fear His commandments. Pero yun na nga, ewan ko lang kung mabubuhay si Adler, kung nabubuhay si Adler, kung tatanggapin niya to. Ang hula ko, baka hindi, no? Kasi mukhang hindi naman ganun ka-religious si Alfred Adler, no? But again, the point here is, kaya ko to inopen up, I want to emphasize on the importance of meaning in life. If there is one thing in common between what the Bible is saying and what Adler is saying, it is that ang ating psyche, it is programmed to function according to its purpose. So if you want to have a healthy personality, one way to do it is to identify your purpose in life, and then all your behaviors that you do every day must be in line with that purpose. Yan yung tinatawag sa Adlerian psychology na congruence, which later on, gagamitin din sa humanistic psychology. Okay. So I hope meron kayong mga natutunan dito sa theory ni Alfred Adler. If you know anyone na sa tingin mo kailangan niyang marinig itong video na ito on Adler, please share this video. Thank you everyone for listening. Until next time dito sa ating libreng sit-in, Theories of personality. Thank you and God bless.